This video is sponsored by Squarespace. So the goal for this video is to show how to install free astronomy software on a Mac. I'll also very briefly discuss what each piece of software does as we work our way through the long list. So you can know, if it's a piece of software that you'd actually be interested in having. But the main point of this is just to provide the installation instructions. So why make a video like this? It sounds sort of boring. Well, I realized from comments on my previous video about the free programs Sirilic and Siril that I made some mistakes and assumptions on how Macs actually work today. I wasn't aware that Macs no longer come with Python installed because for a very long time they did. So in this video, for instance, I'll show installing Miniconda, which is the easiest way to get Python and pip working on your Mac. And that's how this video idea got into my head. It was just first how to correctly show how to install Sirilic on the latest Macs, correcting my previous video, which left out some steps. But then I thought, well, I actually have this brand new MacBook. I'm planning to install all this free software for myself anyways. Maybe it'll be useful to people out there to put all of this into one video, just me working through installing all this software. Of course, all of the download links to follow along are in the video description, but I also, in the video description, put all the links in a standalone PDF document that also has little brief descriptions of how I use or plan to use each program. And I might do this kind of video with other operating systems, but I'm starting with Mac because I have access to this fresh MacBook Pro, so it seemed like a great opportunity to work through this together. I'm not covering Windows applications that can be run on a Mac with a virtual machine or perhaps other workarounds like Wine or Crossover. And so just be aware, I realize that there's a lot more free Astro software out there that isn't native to macOS. And at some point I will get to the Windows and Linux versions of this video, maybe even iOS and Android versions too. You can, of course, skip ahead in this video using the video's chapters just to install the ones that you're interested in. But let me note one thing about that, which is I'll start by installing all the software that are standalone programs, meaning ones that don't require any dependencies. For the Java-based programs like Aladin and Astro ImageJ and TopCat and Observation Manager, I'd highly suggest installing a Java runtime environment first. It may not be strictly necessary, but I found it's a good idea for Java programs to run smoothly on my Mac in the past. So I show that if you skip to Java runtime environment, that chapter, I'll show how to install that, and then you could go on with any of the Java-based programs. Same thing for the Python-based programs like AstroPy, Jupyter Lab, Planetary System Stacker, and Sirilic. You would first need to install Miniconda so that you have Python on your Mac. So just watch the Miniconda chapter before going on to any of those Python-based installations. And lastly, before we jump into this whole list, let me say, this is what works for me with a brand new M3 Mac running Sonoma in 2024. Hopefully it will stay relevant for a good long time, but things do change. So if you're watching this years later, I apologize if anything doesn't work as expected. But with that disclaimer out of the way, let's jump in. Okay, here I am. As I mentioned, this is a brand new M3 Mac. What M3 means, the M series Macs are Apple started making their own computer chips. Sometimes you'll hear that referred to as Apple Silicon, and they start with this M. So it's like M1, M2, M3. The latest ones that just came out are the M4 chips. And so to find out if your Mac is Apple Silicon or the older Intel-based Macs, you can click up here in the upper left-hand corner on the Apple, and then click About This Mac. And right here where it says chip, if you see Apple M3 or Apple M1 or whatever, that's an indication that you have Apple Silicon. So when you're downloading any software, you usually have to make sure that you're downloading something that will work with Apple Silicon because it uses a different chip architecture than the older Intel. Let me bring up a text document just to show you what to look for. Okay, so if it's Apple Silicon, you'll see sometimes the word ARM64. That's the chip architecture. If it's an Intel Mac, you'll sometimes see x86_64. So these are both 64-bit chips, but the one uses a different kind of architecture than the other. The ARM style chips were initially designed for mobile phones. They were in the iPhones, but also many Android phones. And then they made their way to Apple's main computing line. And they're very good chips. They're very fast, but the software is still catching up in some respects because the Intel era on Mac lasted a very long time. Okay, so that's just what to be aware of. Intel are older Macs made before maybe 2020, 2019, something like that. And then the Apple Silicon era is the last few years here, starting with M1, and then the latest are M4. And so I just bought this one. But instead of getting the latest, I got a refurbished one just to save a little money and got the Apple M3 Pro. You can see it came with the operating system Sonoma 14.6, and I have not upgraded or updated the operating system to the latest Sequoia because a lot of times with software, there's a lot more bugs if you immediately switch to the latest macOS that just came out this fall. Sometimes a lot of software won't yet work with it. So I always stick one macOS version back from the latest. And so that's what I'm going to do until the next one comes out, and then maybe I'll upgrade to Sequoia. From a security standpoint, that might not be the best decision, but Macs are typically pretty secure, sometimes to a fault, as you'll see in these installation instructions. We'll have to run through a lot of hoops to install some of this software. I'm perfectly okay with it because I trust these developers are not adding malware to their software packages, but your security level is up to you. What Apple would want us to do is only download software through the App Store. But 95% of the astronomy software that I'm going to show you is not going to come from the App Store. It's going to, we're just going to download it from a website and install it. And to do that, we'll have to sort of go around Mac's usual security. Okay, enough said about that. I have created this PDF list of all the software that I'm going to install. You can download this PDF from the video description, or if you prefer, all of these links, all these download links are also in the video description. But the PDF also gives you some little description of how I would use this software for astronomy purposes. So starting here with the first one, Adobe Bridge, the way that I use it is by default, if you take a picture with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera as a camera raw file and just bring it onto your Mac, there's no software on here that will really read it and be able to just view the raw files in a nice way. So that's where Adobe Bridge comes in. Adobe has committed to keeping it free. Now, they might try to upsell you to Creative Cloud, but just ignore all of those offers if you don't want to be part of the Adobe Creative Cloud, which is their subscription model. Anyways, let's go ahead and download it. And as I said here, another reason for having this is you can quickly, we call it blink through your frames. So if you take many, many frames of an astronomical object with the plan to stack them, maybe some clouds pass through and you don't want to include those pictures that are bad frames, the ones with clouds. So this is a good way to sort through and find all your good frames you'd want to stack and reject the bad frames. So when you open up this link, it's pretty obvious where to click, download app. Then it says, do you want to allow this download? I'll say allow. There it goes to my downloads. Then I'll just click on this little magnifying glass to open it up in Finder. It's in my downloads folder, and I can just double click this bridge installer.dmg. If you're new to Mac, let me just show you something here. This opens up this little thing, the installer file, which opens up this window. So you will see this thing on your desktop right here after you click the DMG file. And then it says to double click the folder to install Creative Cloud and Bridge. So we'll do that. It gives me a little warning that this is downloaded from the internet. Are you sure you want to open it? Yes. I would like to access your downloads folder. Okay, allow. Okay, it's just asking me here for my computer password. So when you set up your Mac, you set up a user password for the computer, and that's what it's asking for here. So I'll just type mine in, click OK. Okay, now one of the downsides to Bridge, even though it's free, is they do want you to create an Adobe account. So if you don't already have one, you can do that right here where it says new user, create an account. And I'll go ahead and just make a dummy one here, even though I already have one. Okay, it wasn't too bad. It just asked for an email and password and name and birth month and year. Okay, I'll go ahead and click Start Installing. It does ask you for some demographic information, but if you don't want to answer these, you can just click Skip Question. Okay, it's now done the first part of the installation, which is downloading the Creative Cloud app. And then once it has that done, it uses the Creative Cloud app to install Bridge. This is sort of like an app manager for Adobe. And if you can see that it is also sort of using it to advertise things you can buy from them, of course. But again, Bridge is free. Even if they pressure you through this app to buy other things, you don't need to. Bridge is completely free, and they've so far, over many years, stuck to that promise. Okay, it finished installing Bridge, and now it's opening, and it's asking it would like access to files in your desktop folder and your documents folder, and I'm just going to give it access to these things. It will keep asking downloads folder and so forth. Okay. So this is not a photo editing application. It's just an application more for viewing and organizing your files. So just to make sure that it worked, I'm going to pop in an SD card into my MacBook here. Okay, and then if we go back to computer up here in the upper left, you can see this is the internal SSD, the Macintosh hard drive, and this is the SD card. And so I can double click the SD card and go into the folder structure here to actually pull up all of the astronomical images. And so this is just sort of a very thumbnail kind of view. It says this is the essentials view. But let me click on one of the images here. This is of Polaris. And if you just click on one of the images, it gives you some nice metadata. It can tell you the ISO, the exposure length. It doesn't know the aperture since this was with a manual lens, but it gives you the resolution and things like that. Okay, and then what I find most useful is I go here to Film Strip View. And then down here at the bottom, you have your film strip. And then up here, you have a larger preview. And with this preview, if you hover over it, you'll notice you have this little magnifying glass, and you can click, and it gives you this little nice loop, this magnified loop. So you can also examine the quality of the stars. But then to blink through, you can just click down here, and it will show you what's going on. And so you could quickly just sort of examine the film strip and examine, every 10 or 15 and just look for clouds or other anomalies. Now, often misunderstood thing is if in doing this and rejecting bad frames, if you wanted to delete some, you don't have to reject frames that have satellites or airplane trails in them. As long as you've shot, let's say, 20 to 30 images, the stacking process itself will have something called a rejection algorithm that will reject those pixels of a random satellite trail through your image, and it won't show up in your master stacked file that you're going to process. So don't worry about rejecting ones with satellite trails. You're really just looking for clouds, out of focus. So if all the stars all of a sudden go blurry, sometimes high altitude clouds will give your stars halos. You might want to reject those. And then if you have tracking issues, this is untracked, but if you had a star tracker and you saw all of a sudden some of your pictures had your stars were lines instead of round, you would want to reject those as well. So Bridge is useful for, again, looking through raw files from a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. I'm going to take a very quick break from the list to tell you about the sponsor of this video, which is Squarespace. I use Squarespace at nicocarver.com because it makes it easy to create and maintain a professional website and online gallery with their guided design system called Squarespace Blueprint. You can choose from many different templates and then customize them to your taste quite easily, as I'm showing here. And another thing I like is that there's lots of features built in. For example, if you want to sell products or prints or services, you can set up an online store, and then Squarespace now has flexible payments so that your customers can pay however works well for them. I also appreciate that the contact form, which is also built in, works very well and prevents any spam messages from getting through. So whatever kind of website you're looking to make, Squarespace has you covered. And right now you can get a free trial by heading to squarespace.com/nebulaphotos. And when ready to make a purchase of hosting or a domain, you can get 10% off with code nebulaphotos. Okay, and the next one on my list is another Adobe product. Adobe, at some point, maybe in the 90s, I think, created an open standard for the RAW format that they called DNG, digital negative. And they've shared that open standard with anyone who wants to use it, and it's now incorporated into most software. And the really nice thing is then they've also kept this program, the Adobe DNG Converter, up to date. So what this allows us to do is, let's say you get a new camera, a brand new camera. A lot of times the software needs to catch up with the latest RAW format of that camera. But all the software that I've found works with Adobe DNG, and Adobe DNG is this converter is constantly being updated. So it will convert this newest RAW format that just came out to Adobe DNG. You don't lose anything. It stays perfectly raw, but now it's more compatible with any astronomical software you want to use it with. Siril, Deep Sky Stacker, or whatever. They don't have to stay as up to date because you can just first batch convert, and then work with the DNGs in those softwares. Okay, so useful program, a little bit boring, but it's something that if you work with modern DSLR or mirrorless cameras, you're going to probably want this in your toolkit. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up. This is the main page, and if you just scroll down here, here's the Windows, here's macOS. It does say that it works with both Intel or Apple Silicon processors, so we'll just click on that one right there. We do want to allow it to download the installation file. Okay, it's finished downloading, so yet again, I'm going to go up here to my downloads and click the magnifying glass, and there it is in my downloads folder. So I'll just double click the DMG, and then double click this package file, which will open up an installation dialog like this. I'll click continue. Here's the license agreement, continue, agree. This will take up 2.5 gigabytes of space. This is something to bring up actually. I opted for a 1 terabyte internal SSD, because I run a lot of software on my Macs, and they do end up taking up a lot of space. So I go for a 1 terabyte drive. Just something to keep in mind if you're like me and you run a lot of software. Okay, I'm going to click install. And then again, it asks for my computer password. Okay, it asks, do you want to now move the installer to the trash? That's fine. I'll move it to the trash. And I can click out of these things. This is a common thing on Mac. When I opened up that DMG file, it created this little installation drive on my desktop, and it left it there. You can do one of two things to get rid of this now that we've installed the software. You can just drag it down here to the trash bin on your dock, and that will eject it, or you can right-click on it and choose Eject from the right-click menu. Actually, a third thing, if you like learning Mac shortcuts, is you can press Command E for eject, and that would work too. Okay, so we've cleaned that up. Let's just make sure the software is working now. So if you click on your Finder application and go to Applications, right here we have the Adobe DNG Converter.app. I'm going to double click it. And yes, this is what it looks like. It's a very simple app. It leads you through with this 1, 2, 3, 4. So you select the folder of images you want to convert. These would be your raw images. Then you create a folder. I would suggest creating a different folder. Don't save in same location for your DNG files that it will convert your raw files into. If you want to, you can create a new document name, or you can just leave it on the default. And then you just click convert down here, and it will run through a batch process and convert all your raw files to DNGs. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to quit out of it. So that was Adobe DNG Converter. Next up here, I have two ZWO pieces of software. The first one is the ASIAir. So this would of course only apply if you use the ASIair device, but something that I have found very handy is that if you have an iOS device that you normally use your ASIair with, like I normally use it with my iPhone, if I wanted to use it with the bigger screen and better Wi-Fi antenna of my MacBook Pro, there's now a thing with Apple Silicon where any iOS app you have, you can also install natively on your MacBook. So the way this works is you open up the App Store. You need to be logged in with the same account that you use to download the ASIair app on your iOS device, and then you just search for it, and there it is. It says showing iPhone and iPad app results. That's fine. And I'm going to go ahead and just click this little download button right there. And actually, while I'm here, I'm only showing this method of installing iOS apps on your macOS device with the ASIair app, but it works for any of them. So if you want to control your CStar, if you have that from your MacBook, you could download it. If you want to look at any other app, maybe the Sky Atlas, you could download that to your MacBook too. So it works with anything as long as you're on Apple Silicon. From what I've heard, this doesn't work with Intel, which makes sense because it's the reason this works, as I understand it, is because they're using the same kind of chip that's on the mobile devices. So that's why you can now run these apps natively. But just to show you that it works, here it is. I don't have the ASIair connected, but I've done this many times before. You can make it full screen and it fills your screen. It works perfectly well. ASIStudio, let's click on that. Okay, when you click on this link, it will first bring you to the Windows page, but if you, over here on the left-hand side, you can click on macOS and then download ASIStudio. And as it says right here, This is official ZWO software. So if you've bought a ZWO camera and you need something to control the camera or do live stacking or some other things like that, this is what you can use, and it is free. So I'll just install it here. Oh, we now have a new system. So there's many different ways apps install on Mac. This is a pretty common one where it opens it up, this little window, and then it asks you just to drag the application to the applications folder like that, and that's how you install it. And then it just leaves this guy on the desktop, but we can just eject that now that we've installed the app. And then we'll go to applications and make sure this opens up to accept their license agreement. Okay, and there we go. And you can see it has a bunch of different tools within the ASIStudio. So there's ASI Cap, which is for planetary imaging. There's ASI Live, which is for deep sky live stacking. And then ASI Deep Stack, which would be for normal stacking. And so forth. There's a Meteor application, all kinds of cool stuff. So that worked. Let's keep going here. ASTAP. This is a really nice piece of software. I'm very glad it's cross-platform. It does two main things. It's a plate solver, meaning that it can take a picture of the night sky and look at the stars and figure out where in the night sky the telescope is pointed. So you can use that in many different ways. You can use ASTAP as a standalone plate solver, but many people will use it in conjunction with other software. There's many options on Windows, but one of the options I found on Mac that I'll cover in a bit here is CCDCiel. So you can use ASTAP and CCDCiel together to control your telescope and do the plate solving. Other than plate solving, the other thing that ASTAP is very good at is stacking, the whole pre-processing pipeline, calibration, registration, and stacking of deep sky images. Okay, so let's download it. Okay, and this is a two-part installation. You need the actual program installer, and then you need one of these star databases. Okay, so we go down here, and we want to make sure that we're choosing the correct one. So in my case, that's Apple Silicon. And then I'll click Program here and wait for 5 seconds for it to download. Allow. Okay, I'm going to go back. And it does say, see instructions at this link. So let's see what that says. Okay, download the installer. Use right mouse button and open the package file with installer. Code signing of the executable is required. Okay, and it gives us some instructions here. So let's leave this up, but then go to our downloads folder. Here we go. And I'm going to do what it said, right click, and then open. Okay, and then it says, macOS cannot verify this developer. Are you sure you want to open it? Yes, I do. So I'm going to click the open button. Okay, and now we get the standard installer window. So let's install it on the computer. Okay, close. We can move the installer to the trash. Okay, and then we need to follow these instructions. So we've already done 1 and 2. Let's move on to 3. Which is to open a terminal window and copy, paste, and execute the following command. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to click and drag this line. This is the command, and I'm going to copy it. So you can either press Command C for copy, or you can right click and choose copy. And then I'm going to click up here next to the date and time on this little magnifying glass. This is our spotlight, and I'll type in terminal, and it will bring up this terminal.app, and I can just press return to open that. Okay, this will open up this terminal window. I'm going to make mine a little bigger so you can see it. And then we just want to paste in that command right here. So I can either press Command V to paste, or I can just right click and choose paste. Okay, and so now we have that command here in our terminal, and to execute it, we just press the return key on our keyboard. Okay, it gave us some information here. I don't know if that information is telling us it worked or not, but let's see if we can now open ASTAP. So we'll go to our applications folder and double click it. Okay, it opened up. So I think that indicates that the code signing did work, because from past experience, if the code signing didn't work, instead, when we tried to double click the application, we would just get an error message from the Mac operating system. Okay, so I'm going to quit back out of it because we have one more step with ASTAP, which is we have to go back. I'm just going to hit the back button on my browser here and download one of these star catalogs. Okay, and if you scroll down just past this table, this will show you what's included in each star catalog or database. You will only need one database. If your field of view is 0.6 degrees or larger, you can download either the D05, D20, D50, or D80. Using the D80 has no drawback except it is larger, about 1.25 gigabytes. Okay, since I'm not space conscious, I'm going to download the D80, but you could look at this and look at your field of view and think, okay, do I really need the largest database, or could I get away with the D50 because I'm never going to need a field of view smaller than 0.2 degrees. Up to you, but I'm going to just use this very large database here. So I'll click on that. It will bring me to this SourceForge page, and in 5 seconds, it will start downloading. And this, again, will take a while since I picked the largest database, so it's 1.3 gigabytes. Okay, that's finished downloading, so I'm just going to go to my downloads folder here, and as before, I'm going to right-click and choose Open rather than double-clicking. This gets around a certain Apple security measure. Because then it will say it cannot verify the developer, but you can just click Open, and then it will open the installation file. Okay, and then as a final test, now that the star database is installed, to make sure that ASTAP is working, I'm going to go ahead and open it. Here we go. And I'll open a FITS file. Okay, and you can see it read the FITS header here. This is all the FITS header information. And the FITS header included coordinates because I took this with Astronomy software. But I'm going to go ahead and try solving this image by clicking the Solve button right here with ASTAP, just to make sure that it's correctly solving, that the star database is working. And you can see here up in the log, it says solved in 0.1 second. So it is working as expected. And so we can move on. And the next program in my list here is CaptureEclipse. This would be a program you would want to install if you plan to capture a solar eclipse event with a Canon DSLR or Canon mirrorless camera. I used it for the 2024 a total solar eclipse in April, and it worked perfectly. So I have high confidence in this program, and I would recommend getting it if you have a Canon camera. Even if you don't use a Canon camera, it may be worth renting a Canon camera for the next total solar eclipse just to use this program, because it works very well. Okay, so the newest version is 2.0.1. There's some information about bug fixes and enhancements here. Rob also notes that in version 3, he's going to be working on that for the 2027 and 2020, or for all the upcoming total solar eclipses, but mentions that the 2027 and 2028 eclipses are pretty long, so he's going to upgrade the software to get rid of the 4 corona cycle limit, which will be nice. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on this download on the Mac App Store. It opens it up, and then I can just click the download button right here. Okay, let's just make sure it opens. Before we begin, he gives some advice about capturing eclipses and why for your first one you might want to just watch. I'll click I agree. Okay, and then I can see this is working. It's giving me the option to pick the eclipse that I'm going to be photographing: 2026 Spain, 2027 Annular, 2027 Luxor. Luxor, so what this means is if I click on this, it will put in the coordinates for Luxor, Egypt, but the actual eclipse here is the 2027 August 2nd total eclipse. You can see there's a bunch more listed here going all the way out to 2038. But then you could put in, of course, your exact coordinates here, depending on where you're going to be. I'm hoping to be in Tunisia. Okay, anyways, that seems to be working. So that's how you download it, is go to his webpage and click on this download on Mac App Store, and it will bring you to the latest version. After he updates it, you could just go back to the Mac App Store and update your version. Okay, this next one is something I haven't personally used yet, but it's something I'm interested in trying out. It's a full automation suite on Mac, similar to what you can do with Nina or Sequence Generator Pro, which are both Windows-only programs. To get the plate solving working with CCDCiel, you do need ASTAP, which we already downloaded, so that should work fine. And then to connect astronomy devices, you need to install their individual Indy drivers. So just keep that in mind. But I'm just going to show how to download the program, which is called CCDCiel. This same group, I think, also makes the CartDuCiel planetarium software, which I use as well. For some reason, I didn't put that on my list, but it's another very nice program. Okay, we'll take a look at the installation instruction for your computer. Okay, let's look at installation on macOS. Okay, it says just download the DMG installer, open the DMG file, and run the installer. Let's look at the optional dependencies. Okay, Indy, ASTAP, PHD2, we'll get to that later. CartDuCiel, maybe I should have added that to the list, but just keep that in mind. If you want a planetarium software that works with this, maybe get CartDuCiel. Siril, Python scripting. Okay, that sounds fine. So let's go back here, find the download link. There we go. All right, let's get the latest. And we're just going to find the Mac version. Now, this does say x86, which is the Intel chip, and there's There is an ARM version for Linux, but I don't see one for Mac yet. But let's still just try downloading and installing this, because I found that sometimes Intel-based Mac programs work just fine on the newer Apple Silicon. It's not a guarantee that they won't work. Okay, just because I have a feeling, I'm going to right-click on this and choose Open from the right-click menu. Fine. So I have to right-click that one, right-click, Open, Open. There we go. Continue, install, put in my password. Okay, installed successfully. Let's check it out. All right, well, at least the program opens. I'm not going to go through and mess with indie drivers and figure this all out right now, but it looks like it is working on M series Macs, so I think that we're good to go. At some point, I'm going to try this one, and I'll compare it to EKOS, which is another program we'll get to a little later. That's also indie based on Mac. But you can see this has a lot of different options. You can, of course, connect your main camera, your guide camera, your filter wheel, focusers, rotators, mounts, all this kind of stuff, and completely automate your imaging session with something like this. Next up, we have Darktable. This you can think of as similar to Adobe Lightroom in that it allows you to, let me just click on the home page here just to show you. It allows you to organize your raw files, sort of like what we were seeing with Bridge, but with the organization, you can also quickly develop them with different presets and things like that. Okay, and it does have both an Intel version and a Apple Silicon version. The Apple Silicon version is this one that says ARM64. So I'm going to click on that to download it. And let's look at the installation notes here. Okay, it does say to click Open versus the right-click menu. And then it gives some other tips. We'll see if we have to use those. Okay, I'm going to drag the app here into Applications. And then it suggests the first time you run it, you right-click on it and choose Open from this right-click menu. And then say, okay, I'm going to say okay to that. So that didn't work, but let me just try something here. I'm going to go to the Apple menu, System Settings, go down to Privacy and Security, and scroll down to the bottom, and you can see right here, it says under Security, Darktable.app was blocked from use because it's not from an identified developer, and I'll click Open anyway. And then I'll just use my thumb, click Open. Okay, and now it opened it up, and it gives us some indication of how to use it. I'm going to close it out, and I'm just going to try opening it one more time, this time just by double-clicking it, and make sure that it opens just fine. Yes, it does. Okay, so you have to do that once. You have to go into the Apple security settings and just say Open anyway to bypass that. That's not what it told me to do here, but that's okay. Okay, so that's Darktable. Okay, next up we have Discord. Discord is a very popular messaging app that started with gamers, but now it hosts many different communities for all kinds of different hobbies, not just gaming. And astrophotography has really boomed on Discord. So I have a pretty active Discord community on there as well, which you can get to right here, discord.gg/nebulaphotos. I have a few public channels and then many, many more for Patreon members. And Anyways, so if you're interested in this, there's many other astrophotography communities on there as well. If you're a member of a remote observatory, your remote observatory might have one. Many YouTubers have them, that kind of thing. Okay, and you do have to create an account to use Discord. You can also open it in your browser, but I'm going to download the full app because sometimes it's nice just to have it in a separate app rather than in your browser. I use it both ways. There's also an app for your mobile device too, so you can check on it there as well. Okay, and this is just the standard drag it to the applications folder. Now let's see if we right click and choose open, if it will let us open it. Open. Yes, it does. Okay, so that's installed. Before I move off of Discord, let me just also mention that if you're a Patreon member, this is where I organize a monthly imaging challenge. So if you're interested in just sort of having motivation to get out there and shoot something new every month, I think it's a lot of fun. And we do sort of a monthly award for the best images, but also I do year-end awards for people that were very dedicated to the challenges. Every year now we're having people that are participating every month, so they get a special badge on my Discord for being so dedicated to the monthly challenges. So it's a lot of fun. So if you're interested, you would need to create both an account on Discord and also my Patreon, and then those two link together to work out. Okay, next up we have FireCapture, which is a planetary imaging app that I've never really used, but a lot of people tell me it's a very good one, and it does work on Mac. So if I ever get into planetary, this will be one that I'll definitely try out. Okay, and if we go down here to download, it has this handy table that shows us the Windows version has the best compatibility with different cameras. But as long as your camera is Altair, Player One, QHY, TubeTech, or ZWO, you're good with the Mac version. So let's go ahead and try it out. Let's see, 3 + 4 is 7. Download. Okay, so it opened up this drive here on my desktop. I'm going to double click that. And within that drive, we have the app itself right here. So I'm just going to drag that to my applications folder. And then here in my applications folder, I'll find it and I'll right click it and choose open. And we get this thing of cannot be opened because the developer can't be verified. Click cancel and go to your Apple, go to System Settings, find Privacy and Security on the left-hand side here, and scroll down to Security, and you'll see FireCapture was blocked, blah, blah, blah. Click Open Anyway. Use your thumbprint scanner or your computer password, then click Open. Okay, and this is where if I had a camera connected, I would pick the camera. Since I don't have one connected, I'll just click Dummy Cam. All right, and we can see that it is indeed working. Okay, next up we have FITS Liberator. This is a pretty old application that's been through a few different revamps over the years. But early on, the way it was used most often was you had the FITS format, but you might want to edit your FITS files in Photoshop, and there was no way to open them in Photoshop. So they made this plugin that allowed you to convert FITS to TIFF, so you could work with them in Photoshop. And it still does that. It still converts FITS to TIFFs, but it also has some basic image processing abilities. So if you're interested in having this on your computer, This is where you would get it from Noir Lab. And I'm just going to download the Apple disk image here on the right-hand side. There it is with the descriptive name app001.dmg. Okay, I'll double click that. I'll drag it into my applications folder. And then I'm guessing, like before, we're going to have to go through that security dance, but let's check. I'll right click, choose open. Open? Oh, maybe not. Let's see. Nope, this one opened just fine without going to system settings. So I guess we should double check that it's working. So I'm just going to drop a fits file there. Yep, I can see that it is indeed reading the fits file. Let's see, it's also reading the fits header here, which is good. There's some different things you could do with image processing, but one thing I want to make sure it can do is save a TIFF file in 16-bit depth. So let me just click save test.tiff. Let's save that to the desktop. Okay, and yes, indeed, it can save a FITS file as a TIFF file. Cool. Next up here, we have GIMP, or the GNU Image Manipulation Program. If you've been on my channel before, you've probably seen me use this one. It's a sort of like a Photoshop clone. It's a layer-based image editing software, but you can use it for narrowband work, color compositing, saturation, cropping, all kinds of final touches after processing with a astronomical piece of software like Siril, or maybe a mix of Astro software. It's good as just sort of like a final step in a workflow. So let's download it. Okay, and you can see it gives us 4 options here: downloading the Intel version via BitTorrent or directly. Same thing with the Apple Silicon. So I'm going to do download Apple Silicon directly with this orange button. You can see if you like GIMP, you can donate here to sustain the project. Okay, let's double click the DMG. We'll drag it into our applications folder. Okay, and then in our applications folder, I'm going to right click on GIMP and choose open. Let's see what happens. We do want to open it. And there we go, pretty easy install. Okay, again, when they leave these sort of installation drives on your desktop, you can just right click and eject them. All right, Google Earth Pro. Okay, so Google Earth you can use in your web browser or on mobile apparently, but there's some cool features in the desktop version that are very nice for planning Astro sessions. So if you're going somewhere and you maybe want to see what the terrain is like in 3D for planning purposes, it's nice to have Google Earth Pro. So I'm just going to accept the license terms and download it. And install it. Okay, we can eject this drive. And let's make sure that it's working. There we go. All right, I'm going to quit out of that. And then next up, we have GraXpert, which is a piece of free astronomical software that first and foremost does a very good job with gradient removal, but they're adding other tools within the GraXpert software, including noise reduction. So it's definitely the name, I think the gra part of this comes from gradient because it sort of started as a gradient removal tool, but now it's a little bit more. But anyways, You can download it by going to GraXpert.com. Very easy download links right here. Since I'm working with ARM style processor, the Apple Silicon, I'll choose that, ARM. If you were using the Intel, you would choose this AMD. Okay, I'll double click the DMG, drag the GraXpert app into my applications folder. Then I'll double click the applications folder and right click on it and choose open. Okay, it says it can't be opened because Apple can't check it for malicious software. Say okay. Then go up to the Apple in the upper left-hand corner, go down to System Settings. Scroll down to Privacy and Security on the left, and then scroll down until you see this. GraXpert.app was blocked from use because it's not from an identified developer. Click Open anyway. Use your thumbprint scanner or your password. Then click Open. And you only have to do that once. Now GraXpert will open normally just by double clicking it. Okay, I'm just going to quickly show how to use this because there's we haven't actually finished fully installing it if you want to use the AI features. So let me just, it's very quick. Let me just show you. If we bring in a file here, it has no stretch applied by default, but we can change that down here at the bottom. So I'm going to choose the most extreme stretch. Okay, this is just a single fits file, so don't pay attention to how noisy it is. If you needed to crop, you could. I'm going to go down here to background extraction, change it to AI. And then over here on the right side where it says advanced, I'm going to choose the latest AI model, 1.0.1. And then I'll click calculate background, and it says the selected AI model is not installed. Should I download it now? Click yes. And so this is part of finishing installation with GraXpert. You can do the same thing with the denoise AI model. That's not installed by default either. So I just wanted to show this, that to really finish installation while you're on a good internet, you would want to download the AI models because that takes a little bit of time. Okay, next up we have KStars, which includes EKOS. This is a planetarium program, and then EKOS does image automation like Nina or something like that, but it works on Mac using Indie drivers. So let's download this. We'll get the MacOS version. I'll mention this is something I have tried a couple times over the years, but not got into in a serious way. Because I usually control my telescope with Windows, but it's something I want to dig into more. It's the same program that runs on Stellarmate, if you've heard of that, which is sort of like an alternative to ASIAir. But you can also run the program on Windows, Mac, or Linux. It's very cross-platform at this point. Okay, so we'll double click the DMG file to mount the disk here, and then we'll drag the KStars app into our applications folder. And then in here, let's right click on KStars and choose open. And it gives us, we can't open it. Click OK, go to Apple, System Settings, Privacy and Security, scroll down until you see this. KStars app was blocked from use because it's not from an identified developer. Click Open anyway. You can use your thumbprint scanner or your password, and then click Open. Okay, it has a startup wizard. It's asking about, do we want to download the GuideStar catalog to enable the CCD simulator to take realistic images? Sure, let's do it. So I'm just going to click that GSC button, and it will download this 300 megabyte catalog. Okay, now it says GSC was found on your system, and this is grayed out, so we've installed it correctly. We'll click Next. I'm not going to put this in now, since I don't want to give the internet my exact location, so I'll just put in something else. And okay, then it says you may now download optional data files to enhance KStars. Do you want to download extra data? Yes, I do. Okay, so this then gives us a bunch of options. I won't put you through this right now, but I would want like the sharpless regions. Yes, the able catalog. Well, these are installing pretty fast. I guess we can just install a bunch of them. All right, close that and click Done. Okay, so this is the planetarium program, but it also comes with this program called EKOS. So if you look up here, there's a bunch of different icons. If you click on this little observatory icon, it opens up EKOS, which again starts with a profile wizard. I won't put you through all of this yet again, but this is something that's under active development and is a very full-featured image automation software that lets you control your camera, your mount, everything like that. Everything seems to be working just fine here, so I'm not worried that this is going to not work. You can see when I closed out of the profile wizard, it brought up the full EKOS here with simulators. So there's guiding built in, there's a sequencer, there's all kinds of stuff. All right, so that's KStars and EKOS. I'm going to quit out of it. Next up, we have Lynkeos, which is planetary stacking software. You can just click on the link I have in the guide that brings you to the SourceForge page and download this zip file. And there's the app. So it unzipped automatically, and then inside the folder is the app. So I'm just going to drag the app to my applications folder, then go to my applications folder and right click and open the app. It tells me I can't open it. So I'll click OK, go to the Apple, go to System Settings, go to Privacy and Security on the left-hand side, scroll down past all these settings until you see Lynkeos app was blocked from use because it's not from an identified developer. Click Open anyway. Use your thumbprint scanner or your password and then click Open. Okay, so here it is. It's a stacking software. So you would first, load in all of your images and analyze and stack them. It has a little bit of wavelets and other processing as well. That's Lynkeos. Next up, we have PHD2, which is the most well-known and popular auto-guiding software. Has many cool features like multi-star guiding. It has a guiding assistant that sort of can fix your settings for you after analyzing what's going on. It has very nice logs, which we'll get to, and it has broad camera support. So it's at openphdguiding.org. I'll download the Mac version right here with the green button. And it just downloads the actual app, just like that. So I just drag that app into my applications folder, scroll down and find it, and right-click on it, choose Open. It gives me the message, just click Cancel, go to Apple, System Settings, go down to Privacy and Security. Scroll down past all these options until you see PHD2.app was blocked from use because it's not from an identified developer. Click Open anyway. Scan your thumbprint or use your password and then click Open. All right, and there's PHD2. It has a first light wizard, which if I had gear connected, it would set up a profile for me. But I can see that this is working just fine, so I'm going to quit out of it. Okay, then next up we have a companion app for PHD2, which is the PHD2 Log Viewer. So what this does is when you're guiding with PHD2, it always generates a log. You can then take that log, which is just a text file, and open it in this program, and it analyzes it and gives you insights about your mount and the performance of your mount in auto guiding. So to download that one, you just go here. We are on Sonoma or newer for Mac, so we'll click on that. Allow. It downloads the app. We can just drag the app into our applications folder. You can try opening it by doing right-click open. It throws the warning. We click cancel, go up here to the Apple system settings, go over here to privacy and security on the left-hand side, scroll down past all these options to find PHD was blocked from use because it's not from an identified developer. Click open anyway, then scan your thumb or use your password and click open. And there it is. I don't have a PHD2 log to view, but I can see that it's working, and I've used this before on Mac and it works just fine. What you would do is just file open, and then it will open up your log and give you all kinds of visualizations to look at. Okay, next up we have QuickFits. This is not something I've used before, but it sounds very handy. Someone suggested it. So this is to preview fits files in the Mac Finder window. So let me show you what that means. Right now, if I open up a Finder window and I go into some data that I have, and I click on a fits file or a fit file, same thing, it doesn't give me a preview of that file like it would with other types of images. Like a JPEG would give me a preview right here. Well, a fits file typically does not. So this program is here to fix that. So let's open it. It's in the Mac App Store. We'll click Get, Install. Okay, and yes, indeed, after installing QuickFits, you can see that now I have this preview, and this is a fairly small preview just here in the Finder window, but if you press the space bar when you have a file selected, it opens a bigger preview, and it not only gives you a nice auto-stretched version of the file, but it also tells you the temperature that the camera was at, the gain, so that's pretty cool. Okay, and then if you have a color fits file, like this is a very wide field image of part of Cepheus, you can see it does debayer the fits file automatically as well. You can see there's some red emission nebula right there. So that's pretty cool. Next up, we have RawTherapee. This is a very full-featured image processing application for raw images. It has some features in here that I think are different than any other image processing application I've ever used, and so it's something I've been wanting to dig into more. Okay, so let's download it here, 64-bit macOS. We'll double-click this DMG file and drag it into the applications folder. Okay, and then we'll try right-click open from the applications folder. We do want to open it, and here it is. So seems to be working. You would, navigate to the pictures or folder of pictures you want to work on. They show up here, and then you can edit them using this program. Next up, we have SAO Image DS9. This one goes back to the 90s, but it's still maintained. It's mostly used by professional astronomers for sort of scientific image data manipulation, but can be cool to have on your computer since it is free. It has a couple different ports, as it says here. But let's just get the Aqua version. I am on Sonoma with Apple Silicon, so I'll click on that. There's the app. I'll drag it to my applications folder. Okay, as it says here on the website, there's an additional step we're going to take here, which is copy this command, open up a terminal app, and paste that command in. Okay, now if we go to applications and right click open, it opens up just fine. Next up, we have Seti Astro's suite of tools, including Cosmic Clarity. So we have to download both of these to get it to work. So let's start with Cosmic Clarity. Here we can click on the parent drive folder, which brings us to here. And we can see here is the MacOS version. So I'll click on that and click download. Okay, so the way I've done this is I've unzipped the Cosmic Clarity Suite folder, and then I unzipped the Seti Astro Suite executable here, and I put that in the Cosmic Clarity Suite folder in my applications folder. Then we're going to go ahead and right click and open the Seti Astro Suite executable. And I've noticed it takes it a while to open, but once it does work. So just give it a minute here. Okay, there we go. It did open. And one thing I want to point out is if you go here to the second tab, Cosmic Clarity, Sharpen Denoise, right down here, you want to click this little icon and tell it where your Cosmic Clarity folder lives. So mine is here in the Applications folder, and then I'll click on this Cosmic Clarity Suite folder and click Open. And then you can see it's selected right down here, and that should open up any of the Cosmic Clarity tools. All right, let's go ahead and just make sure some of the basic things are working here. Okay, so I just loaded a XISF file that's PixInsight's sort of native format. I'll click Toggle Auto Stretch. Okay, so basic stuff seems to be working. Let's try what's in my image. Okay, what's in my image is working. You can see it pulled up a bunch of stars. And I can see it's in the right area because it says OF23. This is indeed in Ophiuchus. So everything with Seti Astro's suite seems to be working here. So you can check out his channel, of course, for more about how this works. But I just wanted to show it does indeed work on Mac. So I'll quit out of it. Okay, next up we have Siril. If you've seen my channel before, you probably know about this one, but it's a very nice full-featured astrophotography processing software that can do pre-processing manually or with scripts, and of course post-processing as well of all kinds of astronomical images. So the latest release here is 1.2.5. If you click on macOS, it says, do you have Intel or Apple Silicon? I have Apple Silicon, so I'll just click that and click Allow. And you can support them right here through PayPal. I think they also accept some other methods, Liberapay or Dogecoin. Okay, that's downloaded. So I'll double click the DMG drag the Siril app to my applications folder, open my applications folder, and right-click Open on Siril, click Open. And just like that, you have Siril installed. So it does give you a little welcome. You can watch the introduction if you want. I've already seen it, so I'm going to click Cancel. And that's it. Here's Siril 1.2.5, and I have other videos showing how to use this. So I'll go ahead and quit out of it. Okay, next up we have Starnet, the command line version. You go to the download page, and there's a bunch of different versions here. If you scroll down to command line tool, this is the one to get if you have an Intel Mac, Starnet V2 CLI. If you have the newer Apple Silicon Mac, use this experimental one right here. So where it says new, click on here, and then this is the one you want. So I'm going to use that one. I'll click download. And the reason you would want this one if you do have Apple Silicon is it's much, much faster than the older Intel version. All right, and then it automatically unzips this folder here. This is the program, this folder. For some reason, I'm in the habit of putting it in my documents folder instead of my applications folder. So that's what I'm going to do, but you could put it in applications if you want. But wherever you have it, the next step is go ahead and open it up and open up this readme.txt, which has some basic installation instructions. We'll see if these work as written. I think in the past I've found I have to alter them slightly, but in any case, the start with open terminal. So we know how to do that at this point. You click on the magnifying glass in your menu bar and type in terminal. And it says run chmod x plus x install.sh. You can just copy this from the README and paste it in here and press return. Oh, and it says, what are you talking about, the install.sh? What is that? That's because we're not in the right folder yet. So the first thing we have to do is actually move to that folder. So that's change directory, cd is the command, space, and then you can just drag the folder, the Starnet folder, right here into terminal and press return. And now you're actually inside that folder. So if we run this command again, just copy and paste it here, it will now work. Okay. And what this literally is saying is change the permissions on this folder so that the computer can execute it. That's what that plus X is. Okay, then we can try running it. So it says run sudo /install.sh return. Ask for my password. This is your computer password. Okay, and yes, this is what I've found in the past. It tells us user/local/bin does not exist because it's not a directory. So let's go and fix that. Go up here to Go, choose Go to Folder, and type in /user/local and go to that. Okay, and you can see in user/local, there's only one folder right now, opt. There is no bin and there is no lib. So we're going to create those folders. So just right click, choose new folder. It will ask you for your computer password, type it in. Okay, and then make another new folder, right click, new folder, and call this lib, L-I-B, which is short for library. Okay, so now we have those two folders in user local, so bin and lib. So now we can go back here to terminal, and since those folders now exist, we should be able to run this command again. Sudo space / install.sh, and it runs properly. Just to show you what it did, if we go back here to Finder, go to folder, and we go back to that folder, now inside the bin there is a Starnet 2 executable, and inside the lib there is a bunch of OpenCV library feature files, executables. Okay, so now to see if we've installed Starnet correctly, we can just type in starnet 2-h, and if it's installed correctly, it will give you a bunch of, it will give you the help file basically telling you how to use Starnet. You can also test its functionality by, if we go back to that folder, cd space. Okay, inside that folder, and so following this, there's this original file with stars in it. So if we follow this syntax that it gives us right here, we could type in starnet 2-i for input, original.jpg, -o output, starless.jpg, enter. And there it goes. You can see it's very, very fast. It's already done. And now if we look at the starless result, it's removed the stars. So that's how the command line version would work. But the second way we want to get it working is, let's go back to Siril. Oh, one thing I wanted to point out, sorry, before we do this, is make sure if you do put the Starnet folder in your documents folder, that your documents folder is not a cloud drive. I've seen that get people messed up here. So make sure that it's an actual drive on your computer. If you click get info, it should just be a folder, a local folder, not a cloud folder. See right here where it says where, it says Macintosh hard drive. It doesn't say it's living on the cloud. So that's important. Okay. Next thing I want to show though is how to get Starnet working in Siril. Go up here to the little three horizontal lines, the hamburger menu, go down to preferences, go to miscellaneous, and click right here where it says none, and find your Starnet folder. Click on Starnet 2, which is the executable. Click open, click allow. And then right here where it says may point to a Starnet neural net weights file, click again on this little folder and click on the weights file and click open. And then click apply. I just opened up that same test image. We're going to image processing, star processing, Starnet star removal. And if it's all working, you should see that this execute button is blue. Go ahead and click on it. And you can see we now have Starnet working right within Siril. So that's how that works on an Apple Silicon Mac. I'm going to go ahead and quit out of Siril. Okay, next up we have StarStaX. This is a stacking program for making star trails photos that works very well. To get it, just go to this website, click download an installation. Click on the one that's appropriate to your system. So for me, it's Apple Silicon. It does say to review the FAQs. So let's see here. On my Mac, I get StarStaX Stacks cannot be opened. Okay, sounds like the normal stuff. So let's go ahead and try installing it. Double click the DMG, agree, drag it into the applications, double click, right click on StarStaX and open. Can't be opened. Okay, so then we go up to system settings, go to privacy and security, scroll down. StarStaX was blocked. Click open anyway. Use your thumb or your computer password and then click open. And there we go. It's a very simple program. You drop your images, you put in a few settings, and then you go ahead and stack, and it creates a really nice star trails photo for you. So that's StarStaX. Next up, we have Stellarium. I'm sure a lot of people already have this one, but just in case. Right up here, you have different versions. There's only one Mac version, so we'll click on it. Allow. Okay, and it just downloads the Stellarium app, so just move that to your applications folder, find it in there, right click, open, open again, and that's it. It's now installed. And there's a bunch of cool stuff you can do in here, of course, especially of interest to astrophotography. If I go to nighttime here, there's this little oculars plugin up here, and this lets you visualize your particular camera and telescope against the night sky, and so you can sort of see how different objects and star fields fit in. And then you can also put in custom landscapes and do all kinds of cool stuff with this. Okay, so for the next set of software that we've finished the standalone installations. For the next set, they are Java programs. So I would recommend before downloading and running any of these, that you first make sure you have a Java runtime environment set up on your computer. So you can get that from java.com. So we'll go there. And it automatically senses your operating system, but it doesn't know if you have Intel or ARM based Mac. So if you have Intel, you click this green button. If you have an M series system Mac, you need to click this little link right here to get the latest version of JRE, Java Runtime Environment. Okay, I'll go ahead and double click the DMG, double click the app, open, install, type in my password, and it installed it successfully. So that's all we have to do with that. And now we can go on to the next one, which is Aladin. This is a Sky Atlas. It's a little bit different than a planetarium in that it's more for like looking at survey data and stuff like that. Okay. So we'll just go to Mac ARM here and download the installer. So you can see that there are these versions without Java, but I just am not positive those work as well as the ones that do work with the Java runtime. So that's why I'd recommend we do it the way we just did it. Okay, I'll double click this DMG, double click the installer app. Oh, it says we can't run the installer app. Let's try right click open, open. Okay. All right, it's going to install Aladin, finish. Okay, let's look at our applications now. There's Aladin Sky Atlas. Let's try opening up the app. There we go. This is the full Aladin Sky Atlas. If I might have shown in other videos Aladin Lite, which is the web-based version, but this is the full version, which is very handy to have on your computer. You can pull up all kinds of different catalogs, surveys, databases, and view them here. All right, quit out of that. Astro Image J. I've not used this, but I've been recommended it a few times, so thought I would try getting it installed, which will sort of motivate me to start using it. So we want the ARM 64-bit DMG right here. So I've heard that it's good for any kind of scientific data analysis, including photometry. After we double click the DMG, it opens up like this. We can drag it into the applications folder, and then we can try right click open and open again. Okay, we're currently running 5.3.3. There's some newer versions. I don't care about that at the moment, but looks like it's working. So we could open up image and do all kinds of different analysis on it. Next up, we have Observation Manager. This is like a logbook, but on your computer. So it's an easy way to keep your observations of the night sky organized and be able to sort through past observations. So let's get the latest version with all extensions. Okay, I'm going to drag this whole folder into my applications folder that we unzipped. And okay, here's the, so I've moved the Observation Manager folder from my downloads to my applications folder. I read the README here, which says to start it up, you need to, on Mac, you run this obs.command. But when I run that, it says I don't have execute abilities. So we just have to run a quick chmod on that. So we start by opening terminal. Let me make this a little bigger so you can see it. We'll run cd change directory and go here to the Observation Manager folder. And then we want to run chmod plus x on the obs.command. Okay, now let's try running this again. Right click open. And there we go. It's opening up Observation Manager, and here it is. Okay, and then next up we have TopCat. This is a free tool that's designed for professional astronomers, but maybe you would find it interesting or useful as an amateur astronomer. And it's for sorting through large catalogs and data sets using a graphical user interface. So let's download it for macOS. I just clicked on this topcat.all.dmg. Let's see, you're advised to download it using curl rather than the browser. Otherwise, it will need to be unquarantined. See the FAQ entry. Okay, let's see how to do that. All right, so double click it or drag the TopCat app into our applications folder. And then we'll open up terminal. And then I copied this command right here, xattr-d com.apple quarantine topcat.app. Paste that in, run it. No such app. Oh, maybe we have to go to the applications folder. Okay. Sorry, had to go to the applications folder, then I ran the quarantine, and then let's see if we go back to applications, go down to TopCat, right click, open. That did the trick, it opened right up. Now moving right along, we'll go to Python-based applications. And this is something that was shocking to me. I've been using Macs a long time, and for the longest time, if you just grabbed a new Mac, you went to terminal and you typed in Python version, it would have some version of Python installed, usually 2.7, I think, recently. But no longer. Macs no longer come with Python pre-installed. So an easy way to install Python 3 and a bunch of other useful stuff is to get mini Conda. Or if you want to, you can get the full Anaconda, but that's much, much bigger and probably includes a lot of scientific software you may or may not use. While for astronomy purposes, Miniconda works great. So to get it, go to anaconda/download here, and it will say provide your email to download distribution, but if you don't want to give them your email, you can just click skip registration right here, and it will still let you download it. These are the Anaconda installers, but if you scroll down, here's the mini Conda installers, much smaller installation. So I'm going to do the 64-bit graphical installer here for Apple Silicon. If you have Intel, you could do that. I'll right-click, open this package. Okay, it says Miniconda is a free minimal installer for Conda. Continue, 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 agree. Yes, install for all users, install. Give it my password here. Okay, we can close out of that. Okay, now to confirm that that worked, we can just retype that command, python --version. And we can see now we have Python 3.12.7 installed, which is good because the rest of what we're going to be doing requires Python to be installed. Okay, so now we can go back to our list here, and next we'll install AstroPy, which is a really cool set of tools that's useful for analyzing astronomical data, as you might imagine. It's a Python program. It's like a command line program. So it does require learning some Python if you want to use it. But there's a bunch of cool tutorials for AstroPy right here. And even if you're new to Python, I think it would be a cool way to learn Python is through AstroPy. They specifically recommend you do use the Conda to install it. Basically, what Conda is, what we just did with Mini Conda, is it's called an environment manager or a package manager. And so you can set up a Python environment where you have a program like AstroPy, which has all these different dependencies, and it's sort of cordoned off from the rest of your Python installation on your computer. So you're not messing anything up. It can have all these particular dependencies, different versions of Python programs, and then you can work in a different Python environment for a different kind of task. So it's pretty cool. But we want to sort of follow these instructions here. We can skip over install MiniForge because we already installed Mini Conda, which does the same kind of thing. But we do want to follow these little steps here to create a new Conda environment. So I'm just going to copy this command, go to my terminal here, paste that in. Okay, and now we have a new environment. To use it, we type in this command right here, conda activate AstroPy. So I'm going to go ahead and activate it. Done. And so now you can see over here, instead of the base environment, we are now in AstroPy environment. And from there, we can install AstroPy into this environment. So we're going to use Conda, of course, to do that. So we'll just run it with recommended dependencies here. So pick this second command, paste that in. We'll say yes, proceed, Y, enter. And it downloads all the different dependencies, packages that AstroPi relies on, and puts them into this new AstroPi environment that we have set up. So anytime you want to use it, you can just do conda activate AstroPi, and then you're in this sort of sandbox for AstroPi. Now, also within this like AstroPi conda environment, I'm going to install Jupyter Lab. This is a very common tool I've found that people use with Python, especially in astronomy. It lets you sort of work with Python more interactively in the web browser. So I'm going to just run this command here, conda install conda forge Jupyter Lab. Proceed. Okay, you can see that if I restart my terminal, it goes back to my base configuration, which is good. But if I want to work with Jupyter and AstroPi, I can just do conda activate AstroPi. And now I'm in the AstroPi environment. And then if I wanted to call up Jupyter Lab, I can just type in Jupyter Lab. And that pops up in my browser. And so I could start a new notebook here, and you can, do simple kind of interactive stuff, which is fun. So, I'm just going to do some simple math problems here just to show you that it does work. This is using Python in your browser, but you have anything that's going on here in your terminal just in this notebook. So you can also work with AstroPi, you can drag in FITS files and do all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's a lot of fun. I would recommend watching some tutorials or reading some tutorials to get to know how to use it. Okay, for Planetary System Stacker, here's the original GitHub, but Nick Korn has already created a more convenient way to install it. So I would recommend going to his GitHub, and you can read the README if you want. If you click on code right here, then you can click download zip. And then right here in that folder is PlanetarySystemStacker.app. Just drag that into your applications folder, find it, and right click, open. It will give you the standard warning. Go up to the Apple, go to System Settings, go down to Privacy and Security, and then Open Anyway. Use your thumb or password and then open. And then it says the Python 3 command requires the command line developer tools. Do you want to install those? Sure. Okay, and here is Planetary System Stacker working. I don't have anything to throw at it right now, but you can imagine this is a planetary stacking program, so it's supposed to work sort of similar to Registrax or AutoStacker, things like that. Okay, and then next up we have Sirilic or Siril.IC. It's an add-on for Siril that allows for doing some fun stuff like multi-session. This is the last program I'm going to show. It's also what started this whole video idea, because in the last time I showed this, I didn't realize you need to install Python on newer Macs before you can install this. But basically the way this works is just go down here on the GitLab to Python package and download this file by clicking on it. This WHL file, sorry. And I'm just going to put this on the desktop. so I know where it is. Okay, so this is the installation file, but we need to use the terminal to actually install that. So I'm just going to do CD for change directory desktop. So now I'm on the desktop, and then I can just use pip install, and I'll start typing in the file name, which starts with SIR, and then press tab to complete the file name there, and then press return, and it will install this using pip. It successfully installed, and now I can just type in Sirilic into my terminal, and it should pop up. Yep, there we go. So that's it for installing Sirilic. If you've already installed Miniconda, that's all you need to do, and then you'll have Sirilic installed. Okay, and while I'm here, actually, let me show one other thing that I think I forgot to show last time, which is to make Sirilic or Siril IC work with Siril, because it's just a front end for creating Siril scripts. You do need to tell Sirilic where Siril lives. So to do that, you go to this Python menu, go down to Preferences, and then just click on where it says Siril Executable. Just click on these three little dots and go to Applications and find the Siril app and click Open. And if you were on Windows doing that, it would be the same thing, except instead of going to here, you would go to your program files and find Siril.exe. Okay, you can see our computer is now full of cool astronomy software that's completely free, and hopefully this was fun and useful. I hope to do it again for Windows and Linux at some point, but till next time, this has been Nico Carver, Clear Skies.